Welcome back to The Heat. We're discussing the ongoing crisis in Ukraine and efforts to find a peaceful solution. Joining me now from Brussels is Ihor Dolhov. He is Ukraine's ambassador to NATO. Ambassador, welcome to the show. We have just heard from our reporter that a helicopter has been brought down, 9 people killed. That was a Ukrainian military helicopter. There was a ceasefire in place that has been now broken. What is next for the Ukrainian government?
Well, what is next for the Ukrainian government? The Ukrainian position is very clear, and President Poroshenko put it in a very simple way, and peace plan of Poroshenko is understandable to everybody. What we need additional efforts from our neighbors, from Russian Federation, to stop not only fire, but to start negotiations and to start settlement on the territory affected by groups of separatists, unfortunately armed, heavily armed, and supported from the Russian territory.
What exactly do you want Russia to do? It wasn't Russia that brought down the plane.
We want very simple, again, and very understandable things. We need more actions and not declarations. It's good that the leadership of Russia supported the peace plan of President Poroshenko. That's good that today Russian upper chamber of the parliament decided to recall its decision to allow President Putin to move forces, military forces, on the territory of Ukraine. But what we need to stop arms supplies and support of those terrorist and armed groups from outside Ukraine, from the territory of the Russian Federation.
Okay.
We need to control border from both sides.
Right, and you have proof that Russia is supplying weapons to these separatists.
Well, there are many facts, and you just mentioned, and you started your question, that Ukrainian helicopter was down by, again, separatists heavily armed. And these arms are supplied from the territory of the other country.
Okay. How encouraged are you by this peace plan? I mean, is this the basic? Does the Ukrainian government think this is the way to defuse this crisis?
The most important thing to understand is that Ukrainians are a peaceful nation. And actually, Ukrainians who supported President Poroshenko and who elected him, he also voted for peace, for stability, for European future of my country and of my people. So President has a very strong mandate of Ukrainian people. And we want that we decide about our internal problems and we solve our internal problems ourselves without any intervention from the outside. And we are able to do so, and Ukrainian government and Ukrainian president are absolutely clear about that.
Okay, you say without any intervention from the outside. The NATO Secretary General says that the alliance is currently discussing how to deploy its forces in response to Russian capabilities. What does that mean?
You know that from the very beginning of the conflict in Ukraine and around Ukraine, and especially after the annexation of Crimea, NATO was very clear and took a very understandable position. No intervention, no violability of borders, no intervention into internal affairs of Ukraine. And of course, no to aggression, no to annexation, and no to the military action. So of course we will continue to cooperate with NATO. And NATO was and continue to be very helpful. Just today in Brussels, in the NATO headquarters, we had a next meeting of NATO-Ukraine Commission at the level of foreign ministers. What we again feel that we will feel strong support from NATO, and additional measures have been discussed and approved by ministers how to support Ukraine and defense capability of Ukraine.
Okay, you talk about support from NATO, you talk about cooperation with NATO. Give us some idea of what that means. You know, what form does that support and cooperation take?
Well, there are different ways of support and cooperation, starting from defense reform, which is badly needed. And now, when we appeared in the situation of confrontation and military action, we discovered that the Ukrainian defense forces need to be modernized. They need to be rebuilt according to the internationally accepted standard, and NATO is the best standard. So we need NATO support in terms of experience, in terms of capability building, in terms of educating military personnel, in terms of joint exercises, and in terms of practical arrangements on the ground. I mean logistical support, I mean more involvement of Ukrainian soldiers and officers in the international exercises and so on. So spheres of cooperation are really broad. And we feel that there is a possibility to expand this cooperation, including such specific areas as cyber defense and new challenges.
Okay, does that include membership of NATO? Because NATO's Secretary General also said in Brussels that the alliance reserves the right to expand and grow bigger, and he said that no third country will be allowed to prevent that.
Well, you know that not so long ago Ukraine applied for the NATO membership and applied for the membership action plan. It was during the summit, NATO summit in Bucharest in 2009. Then NATO adopted a decision that Ukraine, Georgia and Ukraine will be NATO members. So now it's up to Ukrainian people to decide about its future, about its security, and ways of securing security of the country. So now we are satisfied with a distinctive partnership with NATO, and we really discussed ways to expand this distinctive partnership.
Okay, Ukraine is about to sign an association agreement with the European Union. In fact, it's that very agreement that led to tensions being raised in the first place. Does that really mean that Ukraine has chosen that its future lies with the European Union, not with Russia?
It's a choice of Ukrainian people. And again, let me repeat that actually all internal unrest started from the decision of the previous government to suspend the procedures for signing of this agreement. Ukrainians want to see their European future. They are ready to work hard to bring this future closer to today. And that is why this agreement is just next important step in our way back to the European family of nations. We feel ourselves European. We are able to bring our capability and our talented people to the European house.
Okay. Okay, Ambassador, we're going to have to leave it there. Thanks for joining us. Time for a break right now. Next on The Heat, we'll have a Russian perspective from a former Kremlin advisor. Stay with us.